Headphones on, microphone out. Hey there, fellow Willies. It's me, another little Willie. Like many of you, I've watched the videos of the channels like William Osman, Michael Reeves, and the Backyard Scientists, and I have also thought I could do what's in those videos. To make something that would be cool to show off in the show and tell that we call Science YouTube. There's just one issue. I don't know how to make a YouTube channel actually successful. I don't know anything about coding. I know very minimally about engineering a circuit or editing videos. For the 8 years that I've been watching these entertaining YouTube channels, I've been kidding myself that I could learn to do these things quite easily, just because, like them, I am a dude that wants to make some wacky, impractical ideas a reality. But in order to make it somewhat more interesting than some random video of a project that someone made that we've seen a million videos of on YouTube, I have decided to document everything that I have to learn and turn it into a full-on series in order to show the wealth of skills and patience that go into taking an idea and turning it into a reality. We all hear or see minorly the struggles that these YouTubers go through in order to make their projects work. One that comes to mind is Alan Pan. He's very transparent about the struggles that he goes through with many of these videos, and he's willing to show us that sometimes these ideas just fail. And I find that very interesting because it makes it feel more like I could do this. I could also make something that fails. This is going to be an open project, so any resources or advice that you're willing to give me, I am willing to take in and use.
Hi, I'm Gabriel. My idea is to build a hot dog electric chair. I saw back in the early 80s, 70s-ish, they had a hot dog cooker that was literally just, you plug it in the wall and it is a dead man wire that goes from the wall into these little razor blades that you put the hot dogs on. And I thought that was an interesting thing because it absolutely splits them open. And it reminded me of an electric chair. So my project is to make a tiny little electric chair that will cook a single hot dog at a time. I'm going to be documenting the entirety of what I need to learn for this. A little background on me: I'm a industrial electrician. I work on power plants. So big machines I understand, but these little stuff I don't have the best grasp on. I don't have any coding experience, so that's what I'm working on today, is learning how to use an Arduino and understanding the coding language in order to make it do what I want for this project. My plan is to use the Arduino as a controller for a relay. That way I'm not just having a the only control for this mechanism being me plugging in and unplugging it from the wall. I want to have a little bit safer, a button, so that way it can hopefully make like a little noise or something, or I can have a big knife switch that doesn't actually have any power behind it. It's just a giant knife switch that has the little 5-volt input that goes into the Arduino and says, hey, start cooking the hot dog. So that's why I want to use an Arduino for this as opposed to just plugging it into a wall. Okay, so I modified a sketch that was already made for Arduino. The original sketch only used the generic output for the pulse width module output. That pulse width module output was 5. I added in code to make 5 of the PWM outputs as actual outputs that will put out a variable or modulated voltage. Pulse width modulation is pretty much a square wave, so the voltage will go up to the voltage that it is set to go to, and then down to 0. And the rate at which that it does that is what is making this brighter and darker. So when it's super bright, it is pretty much going super fast where it's pretty much holding an average voltage super high. When it's dim, it is having those pulses more spaced out, which is dimming the lights. I also wired it up. I made a negative bus because all of the ground go back to the same place. And then I wired up each of the lights to their corresponding output that the Arduino was outputting. And then I put in the code.
Okay, so as you can see, this is the code I made right here. Fade 5v1. That's because I used 5 LEDs for this. As you can see in the original code for the fade for Arduino, it only uses LED 9. I initially tried to use just this LED right here and have the outputs be a list of these 5 LEDs and have each of these 5 LEDs made on each one of these outputs, and then go through and just use LED right here. And then for the value, it should have had LED 1 through 5, and then it would have been outputs 3, 5, 6, 9, 10. I tried having it just as outputs 3, 5, 6, 9, 10, and it was still saying it was undefined. I think it was thinking of those numbers as just a list of values to use for some reason. Maybe I'm wrong though. That might be incorrect because I've just been messing with this whole time. So I haven't really learned exactly how C++ or the Arduino code works particularly. But as I was talking about earlier, I said for LED 1, brightness equals brightness plus fade amount 1, which I made a fade amount for each one in order to have them fade in and out at different rates. So, as you can see, it'll fade at a rate of 1. And then, so as you can see in this part of the code, for if brightness is greater than the value that I have set, which is 255, it will set the brightness to a negative integer, and then it'll start going down after it reaches that peak in brightness. And then once it is less than 0, it'll add that negative integer again, and then it'll start adding. And it'll continue that until it reaches one of these two values back and forth. So same thing for LED2. I just use LED2 and fade amount 2, which are defined up here. And as you saw, each of the outputs were connected to its own LED, and they were each giving their own different fade amount. The only thing I didn't understand is why the delay for this whole program had to be set at the end. I changed the delay on it from the original fade just because it allowed it to be slower, so it's more visible, the difference in each LED's fade rate. But besides that, it's still pretty simple. I just used this and I had to repeat it. I was trying to be smart and trying to use lists so that way all I had to do was set LED to be all of these different things, and then I would have the fade amount change in order to change which one I wanted. But that didn't end up happening, so it really didn't work out. But this is the code. It's not too crazy. It's only like 50 lines, really. There is a lot of beforehand that I just left in there for before, just because I was looking at which output I wanted right here and using that as an idea of, in my mind, what LED was getting lit up.
So I realized that I didn't show off the circuit that well in the last video, so I'm doing it here where you can see very well. Don't pay attention to this wire. This just keeps the Arduino from falling off the breadboard. So I have it color labeled. Yellow goes to digital output 3. Green goes to digital output 5, red goes to 6, white 9, and blue 10. And then to ground, I have it connected to all of the cathodes of the LEDs. As you can see, all the LEDs are wired up. They're wired in parallel with each other in reference to ground. The color-coded wires go to the anode of each LED, and then it doesn't matter for the cathode because it all goes back to ground. So it's all the same color for ground. So I now have the power supply connected, and it's a little bit hard to see on camera. It's easier in person to see it, but the lights are fading in and out in brightness based on the code that I put into it at different rates. That flickering is still there, but it isn't something that I was able to understand why. I did some research on it, and I still can't find a reason. It has something to do with the delay and it refreshing the whole thing, but I'm still pretty satisfied with what I did for now. So for my first actual somewhat of a project for coding, I'm somewhat proud of what I've been able to accomplish in the past week or so. I went from knowing almost nothing about coding to pushing through and understanding what a coding language actually means, because I would hear before Python and C++. All I really knew about that was that Python was easier to learn, C++ is in everything, and so now that I understand that it's very similar if you know one of them to understand what the other one is doing, to just talk and code, it's more of the coding language pretty much just makes it to where you don't have to type in very exact things. You're able to use the language in order to make groupings of actions that it's going to be taking and groupings of labels of components that it is going to be interacting with, that be it components on the board or components within the code itself. So it makes a lot more sense now, as opposed to just this magic little rock that can think. So this was very fruitful. At the very least, I now have a more basic understanding of what coding is, and a more basic understanding of just how much infrastructure goes behind something like this, software-wise. So yeah, hot dog electrocutor.